Alrighty, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classics, that's known classics. This is episode number 1366, and Doubleshot number, actually not 66, it's actually 62, Doubleshot number, 1256. Now, I got two Hulk-related trades. First one is, you're probably thinking, wait, you're reviewing this? Something that came out 6 years ago? That when it came out, I think it got mixed reception because this was the main Hulk title for about 2 years. We have the Totally Awesome Hulk, Volume 1, Chow Time. Yes, when this image was first released, they covered up the head and the hand. Well, there was a reason for that. I mean, I get the head, but I was thinking, why the hand too? Because he's got like an armband on, a special armband associated with Amadeus Cho. Now, this book contains I think it's the first 5 issues of the series. No, first 6 plus Phoenix Burning, which I believe it was from let's see. It says from Planet Hulk number 1. I think now, pretty much you probably think, okay, how the heck this happened? Now, this is the Amadeus Cho Hulk. Now, you're probably asking, Nick, how the heck did this happen? This came out in 2015. Was it explained how the heck Amadeus Cho became the Hulk? The answer is yes. They actually explained this issue 2. They explained 4 months prior to present day, Bruce Banner was having a nuclear meltdown. Yes. And the best way to save him was transfer his gamma radiation to somebody else. Namely being Amadeus Cho. Why? Because they hung out with Hercules. They mentioned in the book. So, and of course, here's the thing. The way it's written here is that Tony Stark doesn't like him at all. Nobody likes how much of a genius the guy is. Yeah, that's the thing with geniuses in fiction, is that a lot of the time, they don't like each other very much. So, they transfer power and becomes the Hulk. And, though I at least gotta praise the fact his pants are a nod to the classic Jack Kirby version of the Hulk, because he used to wear purple pants. Yes, a lot of the time he wore purple pants. If you look at any old image of the Hulk from the 60s. Heck, even from the 1990s cartoon series, he wore purple pants. Now, these pants are basically very special design pants. Now, during his first action, he basically took on basically up this book, he takes on Fing Fang Foom. We also have a view of a monster hunter from space, a smoking hot alien woman, which I'll get to her. So, he basically makes a move. Oh, by the way, the artwork is done by Frank Cho, which that's interesting. Where the artist got the same last name as the main character. Honestly, I've never heard of this before. Now, he only does the first 4 issues, and then he leaves this book. Now, 5 to 6 are by Mike Choi. Pretty expert. Now, this whole book is written by Greg Pak. Yes, Greg Pak. Now, my guess when some people heard that he was going to be writing this book, okay, a guy who has written the Hulk before. This is technically... You'll probably be surprised about this. This is only his second ever run he ever did. Well, technically it's the third. You're probably thinking, the third? How was the third? Because people remember Planet Hulk. People kind of forget he actually came back to the Hulk a couple years after he finished up his run for Hulk back in 2007. He came back for, in 2009 up until about 2010, I think it was. Yeah, he wrote the Incredible Hulk series, Star issue 600, up until, I think it was 635. He was pretty much a majority writer for that book before it got restarted back number 1, and had Jason Aaron take the book. That was second run. This is his third ever run. Oh, and by the way, the beach he goes to, Virginia Beach. I've actually been here. So, by the way, Amadeus Cho, who's here, is 19. You got this mysterious canned head here. What the heck is up with that? Well, this is a robot controlled by his sister, Mandy. Yes, Mandy. And, of course, makes moves on a woman, obviously, but he's got no pants. Okay, fine. And apparently she's got, Apparently, like, he saved like a turtle, and of course Mandy, of course, yells at him. Oh, and by the way, his basically he has his own base, his own like mobile base, this meat wagon, which basically has Back to the Future style jets. Now, he's a genius, so I'm not surprised the fact he does this. And apparently Mandy's also a genius too, which that's cool. I like that. And of course, as you wanted to explain the whole thing with, like I just explained with, and there's also stuff in Armidage's show said where he's like driving a green car called Chow Time, and into the car you have the Hulk. And by the way, the trunk is duct tape. Now, this is a recurring plot thread that basically stretches almost this entire book, even just after the whole. I mean, it doesn't get finally resolved toward the end of the book. Now, in the story arc, we have two supporting characters. We have She-Hulk, and we have the Miles Morales Spider-Man, because why not? Of course, this is actually just a year prior to them forming the Team Champions. Yeah, 1 year prior. So, they were thinking about monsters, and we have Lady Hellbender. Yes, this is actually, I believe this is her debut, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because this woman also showed up from Monsters Unleashed. Though that book was done by Colin Bunn. She's got the scar across her, but she's like hot. Yep. And of course, Armitage fights her, fights with these monsters. He, of course, does get taken by her. And of course, Tony Stark is here, obviously. And in order to get him back, like, also we have a fight with Fing Fang Foom, which actually that's pretty awesome. Now, if I think Hulk may have fought him like a couple times over years, but it's not like a regular thing. Because usually Fing Fang Foom is the character who usually the hero who usually fights Fing Fang Foom is Iron Man, because technically he's an alien dragon who's with Iron Man's Rogues Gallery. Yep. Oh yeah, and by the way, basically Armidage's show fills every guy's fantasy when he's kidnapped by a beautiful alien woman. Yeah. So he ends up kissing her. Like any guy would love to do that. Make out with a smoking hot alien woman who's a monster hunter. Yeah, she got gray skin, but she looks very human. But this is actually pretty fun. Like, found a bunch of monsters. Armitage stuff fighting armor. If I had lots of monsters. One last kiss from Lady Hellbender. In issue 5, this was quite hilarious. Like, he ends up in Nevada because he basically falls asleep. Yeah. And then he fights some more robots. Gets hit by a cannon. And then he's like wandering around the desert. And he runs into the Enchantress. And I love Greg Pak's dialogue. Like, she's like, I am more of Asgard, the Enchantress. I have a proposition for the Hulk. Yeah, she apparently wants the Hulk for some reason. He's like, okay, no offense. Aside enough time Hercules to know the arrival of a beautiful, magical stranger usually is a good thing. And she's like, so you find me beautiful? Any guy would have more, you're hot. And he's like, yeah, I wasn't supposed to be the main takeaway. He's like, open your eyes, boy, and see what glories I offer. The Hulk is an outcast. It's like, you have no idea what you want. He's like, wrong. You hate this world. Wrong. You hate puny humans. Wrong. Don't lie, little boy. Walk your dreams, basically about his parents' death. She goes manipulating him and finding out various things. And then the Jane Foster Thor shows up because, well, she was Thor at this period of time, so why the heck not? Yep. Oh, and by the way, love issue 6's variant cover, where it's a clear homage to The Incredible Hulk #1. I love this homage, and I think Frank Cho should get an award for basically doing almost spot-on homage to that. This cover has been homaged several times over the years. As a matter of fact, it's even to homage in the 90s. Yep, and of course, well, you have Thor versus Hulk, because of course you have to have Thor versus Hulk. It's a common thing you gotta have, because these two have been fighting each other back and forth in a friendly rivalry since the 60s, so why the heck not? Oh yeah, and the whole Planet Hulk thing, it's actually just Amazing Fantasy 15, which is actually his debut appearance. Yep, that's pretty much what they threw in here, his debut appearance, which is not a bad idea to do, because I'm just not many people read it. It's a good story. It just mostly just deals with like just his first parents, anyways. Yep. Good start for this run, and I give this book roughly a. Excuse me. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. Yes. As far as I know, there's not a lot of love for this run because, well, Amadeus chose not much of a likable character anyways. Alright, moving on to The Hulk's Cousin. She-Hulk. Volume 1. Deconstructed. Now you're probably thinking we're looking at this image like, why is She-Hulk gray? Well, that's part of the book. She doesn't turn to the Hulk a lot of the time in this book. Now, unlike a lot of the time where it's written very, like, humorous, this one is a very straight, serious book. Now, when I initially saw this image, I'm like, is the writer taking notes from Peter Dave with this run? Because a gray She-Hulk, which is interesting, to say the least. Yeah, the list contains the first 6 issues of Hulk Volume 4. Yes, they refer to it as Hulk Volume 4 for 11 issues, before they retitled it to She-Hulk. Well, it could have been issue 12. Yep. Now, this is written by Mariko Tamaki. Now, yes, it's the same woman who wrote X-23 Volume 4 and is the current writer for the Teta Comics. Yeah, this woman. Now, this whole book is basically, you have Jennifer Walters trying to turn to She-Hulk, but she can't. So a lot of the time, you just see a lot of Jen Walters stuff. And you see her becoming... Now, here's the thing. Either in Hulk form or her regular human form, Jen Walters is a beautiful woman. There's no denying that. Yeah, Jen Walters is hot. I mean, yeah, I know She-Hulk is hot, but Jen Walters just as hot. And the thing is, when Thor started dating her in the Jason Aaron run for Avengers, he has no problem with either. He thinks probably both beautiful women. So, basically, she gets a job at a new law firm. Yeah, the last law firm she worked at, she basically quit because they hired her because she's hot. Well, they basically hired her because of good looks. And she was hired as a publicity stunt, so she basically quit and filed a lawsuit with Tony Stark, which she won, and basically used it as her own law firm. Now, what happened to that law firm, that smaller law firm that she had in the Charles show run, never mentioned what happened to it. It just stopped appearing. So she basically goes back to a different company. This is a company known as Reu Barber Zucker Scott. That's the law firm she works for now. And she gets her own office. She gets a creepy client who's actually an Inhuman. Yes, believe it or not, her first client is Inhuman. And she basically tells her case and the stuff dealing with, well, her landlord trying to kick her out. She wants basically Jen Walters to help her stop that. So, and then we see her assistant. Yes, her assistant. And his name is Bradley. He makes his first appearance in this very issue. He's pretty much a supporting character in this book. Excuse me. Yep. So, a lot of the time this book, especially next volume, Jen Walters is struggling to turn into She-Hulk a lot of the time. She tries, but it is very painful for her. Why? Because a lot of the gamma radiation that basically apparently, and this is according to retcon Bendis did in Civil War 2. Yeah, this came out after Civil War 2, mind you. Where, like, a lot of the gamma radiation that apparently was still in Bruce Banner, despite the fact Pac brought up in his book that that's impossible because all the radiation went to Amadeus Cho, and yet apparently he's got the gamma radiation in him. Yeah. So she's basically spends a lot of time struggling to turn into She-Hulk. By the way, there's actually tied to this in the pages of Charles Schultz's Daredevil, which of course Jen Walters does show up, and she turns into the Red She-Hulk. Okay, we have the full name of this place. It's the Offices of Rowe, Barber, Zacher, and Scott. That's the name of the law firm she works for. And basically, she works in civil court. So criminal court, obviously. Yeah, she is, the thing is, Jen Walters is a lawyer. She's always been a lawyer in every comic she's featured in. And this is basically a book that has not much humor per se, but it does have a good amount of, like, serious moments. Like, very serious here. So, she goes back to her office and she basically, You see her when she kind of looks like she's partial transformation into the She-Hulk, where she ends up wrecking her own office, which she basically volunteers to pay for. It's like, don't worry about it, it's fine. Yep. And apparently her law firm has no problem with the fact she's She-Hulk. The thing is, her identity as She-Hulk isn't publicly known since the 80s. So, yeah, she has no reason to keep it secret. And of course she, deals with various other stuff like a big crush of a building. And of course we see a brief image of the Green She-Hulk. Yes, the Green She-Hulk. And we have Patsy Walker show up. Yes, Patsy Walker. Because why not? My only guess is the reason why the writer threw her in, because she was a supporting character in Charles Schul's run. She must have loved Charles Schul's one, despite the fact its original artist drew She-Hulk like a guy. Yep. But this artwork is really good. So they talk it out, and it's great to see her again. And I basically heard it with a medical report. Like a lot of legalese stuff in here. Jen trying for his outfits. And of course, her still basically deal with. We also have Massey. She's actually a human who's trouble staying in her apartment. And of course, you see various other stuff here. Jen tries to investigate stuff because she's letting go away with stuff. And we see a brief flashback to Civil War II number 0, where she fought Thanos, and she got knocked into a coma during her fight with him, because he hit her so hard with one of his gloves. Thanos is that freaking strong, but at least he didn't kill her like he did with War Machine. Yep, he killed War Machine. It's a good thing Bendis brought him back at the end of his run for Iron Man, because I think even he felt as though the killing off War Machine was a mistake. Yep. Though having She-Hulk turn into Gray She-Hulk, that was also him. He did that too. Yep. Now, the thing with this book is, you see in the covers, you see Jen basically as the Gray She-Hulk. But in these issues, she looks like she's about to turn into Gray She-Hulk, but she doesn't. We see her right after the events of Civil War II, where she's basically struggled with it. She sees a hallucination of Bruce Banner. At this point, he was dead, though he came back 1 year later in the pages of Secret Empire in a bullcrap fashion. They never bothered to explain how the heck they resurrected him. He was briefly resurrected for one issue, and then he died, and then he got back again properly 1 year later in the pages of Avengers, when it was for Jupiter numbering, and for this awesome storyline, No Surrender, which is really, really good, which basically led to his own actual ongoing series coming out, Immortal Hulk. So I'm talking to his hallucination, and then of course she still struggles to turn into She-Hulk. We have her client basically acting weird, and it's just a lot of really weird stuff. Her basically battling a robot in her regular Jen Walters form. And then finally, at the end of issue number 5, she finally turns into She-Hulk. Finally. It took 5 issues for this to finally happen. Yep. Yep, she transforms. It took long enough, but she eventually did do it. Yep, it took halfway through the run to this particular Hulk Volume 4 for it to happen. And, of course, She-Hulk battles this creature. And of course she recovers from it. She goes through it perfectly fine, and she basically in a way is kind of recovered, but don't worry, it's not the end of this here, because there's still about 5 more issues left of Hulk Volume 4 before it gets retitled to She-Hulk. Yep. But that's for the start of Marco Tamiko's run for this book. It's actually pretty good. I like all the psychological stuff that basically is explored in here, because throughout this book she's grieving for the death of her cousin, who is, quite frankly, her only living relative. And here's kind of the strange thing about this book. In none of these issues does she ever confront the man who murdered her cousin, Hawkeye. Not Kate Bishop, Clint Barton. Yeah, she never confronts him at all. Nope. Now, why did I decide to review this? Because I like the character of She-Hulk, and I think this writer's actually a really damn good writer. It's like I haven't read a lot of her work. I think she's a good writer overall, but I kind of think as though that this writer gets a bit like overlooked, and some people probably think that this run is basically the reason why she's not well liked. The thing is, she did this run just prior to doing X-23. Yeah, this came out prior to that. Yep. Now, I quite frankly enjoyed this run when it originally came out, and I'm like, why wasn't anybody else enjoying this run? I thought this one was actually pretty good. And I would gotta say, she basically explores mental issues a lot better than Tom King did in Heroes in Crisis. Excuse me. Reading this, you would clearly see, yeah, she has a much better understanding of this than Tom King did. Yep, so yeah, that's it for Sick Love You. I'm going to do the next review in a minute, because I have to go take care of something quickly. And I'll be right back to do one more Comic Corner. And it's next 2 volumes of 2 particular trade series, 2 really big ones, okay? To the next video. Bye.